Listen, man, just call me Sonic for just the way I lick ears. Hey, everybody, what's up? Welcome back to the Game Skates. Today, and only today, we are here, that's right, on the 1-year anniversary of Sonic Frontiers to just kind of look back. And I figured, instead of just giving you a typical sort of review of the game that, you know my thoughts and everything, I figured we would look back, look back on everything from the pre-release of the game to the pre-marketing to the rumor era and everything, and sort of just talk about how this game shaped up and where it's at today and how it's had such an incredible, insane impact on the community. I need to gush about this game. And of course, if you enjoy the content, make sure to subscribe to your boy and support the content for more bigger, crazier projects like this. So yeah, we are now officially a year into Sonic Frontiers life. I would argue one of the most important games in Sonic history, genuinely. Like, I would say since maybe, Sonic 3 and Knuckles back in the day, or even Sonic 1, or, even a moment like Sonic Unleashed or a Sonic Adventure moment. I feel like this game is a moment for the series, and it's something very important to a lot of us fans, because I feel like, I know, nowadays it's become a joke to just say like, this is shaping the future. This game really is shaping more than just the future. It kind of proved the point, and I want to sort of like talk about how everything came to be. Let's first start with the aftermath of Sonic Forces back in 2017. Now, I don't need to talk to you about Forces again. You all know game is pretty ass, game is pretty whatever, but at that point, people were getting fed up. You know what I mean? I feel like we were becoming to a point where people just did not want to consume Sonic anymore. I'm serious. Like, after Sonic Forces, a lot of people felt very done with Sonic Team. They felt very spiteful, after the game came out. And I think people were just tired, because at that point, we had gone from, Lost World to, the Sonic Boom games to Sonic Forces, just like almost a decade of, Sonic games not being up to scuff in the 3D era, right? And just people just being like, well, I mean, we're sitting here waiting, but I just don't have high hopes. Thankfully, that same year in 2017, we had Sonic Mania, which showed, some good grace for the series, but that was on the 2D side, where I feel like it's pretty much easier to win a lot of people's hearts. But I'm telling you, man, in that 2017 time frame to 2020, like, it was a bad time to be a Sonic fan. It was a lot of doom and gloom conversation. A lot of times, the way you see it online, but just worse, because it felt like there was no longer anything to look forward to. Even at the time, we had the shitty movie design. Obviously, it ended up changing and all that stuff, but it just felt like we were in a consistently bad state with Sonic for the time being. Something that started to change the wind, actually, was the release of the Sonic movie back in 2020, right before the pandemic hit. Movie releases in February to really good praise. Obviously, they changed the character's design. They could tell they got people on board that knew about the character, and people just had a great time with the movie, and people were almost considering it like, oh shit, did Sonic movie of all things break the video game movie curse? I know nowadays that curse has been broken to oblivion. A lot of video game adaptations are fire now, but Sonic movie was one of the first examples of this, of all the live action animated thing, that people love, turned into, a thing that people just love, just love playing, love going into, and it was something that gave hope back to the fans. In fact, it was to the point where the movie was so popular that Sonic Forces ended up being free a month later on PlayStation Plus, and ended up being one of the most downloaded games on PlayStation Plus history. So that's like a little fun fact for you. People were just at the point where like, okay, we're craving this series again, right? And obviously the fans were like, damn, I'm hungry. But we didn't get anything until a year later, which is crazy. Now, before we got to official announcements, we entered sort of the rumor area. Now, the rumor era wasn't as plentiful as I would have liked. There were your typical things, where it was, oh, Sonic Adventure remix, or oh, they're gonna make, an open world thingy, oh, they're just gonna, make another boost game. There was like a lot of dumb rumors, but there was a rumor that not a lot of people took seriously that ended up actually being what Frontiers was, and the rumor was Sonic Rangers. I believe it was like a 4chan post from a playtester, and they were on the spot. They basically said, yeah, they got to play this open area that was pretty empty. They said that they were fighting small enemies, doing puzzles. There was a skill tree. They talked about how, there was the side loop ability. You were collecting chaos emeralds, and that, the island ended, with you uncovering the fog and fighting some big monster enemy at the end with Supersonic, and it would involve, and a ghost girl was dropping rings, so which I guess maybe at the time was Sage, I guess, helping you out. We don't know what it was in that small testing area, but yeah, there was a rumor rumor early on that actually nailed so much of it and was actually correct. At this point, Sonic fans are starving until we get the announcement of our first ever Sonic Central, announced in May of 2021. Now, fans were excited for this. Again, we had been in silence for a long time. We had no Switch ports of any Sonic games, really. You know, the PlayStation 4 and at the time didn't even have any Sonic games except, you know, Team Sonic Racing, Mania, and Force. It just felt like it was time for something new, something remastered, and something. And we got the Sonic Central, and honestly, at the time, it was really good. I mean, we had gotten the announcement of Sonic Origins. We also got the announcement of Sonic Colors Ultimate, which, you know, we know how that ended up for a lot of ways, even though I kind of enjoy it, but that was also announced there. You know, they announced a new line of merchandise, their mobile games and everything, and then boom, up came the finale, the big teaser for the future of Sonic the Hedgehog, and we got a 20-second teaser of Sonic just running, and he made a circle, and that was it. The logo filled in with Sonic Zap, and fans, including me, were left on copium to just speculate. You know, just speculate, sit down, and be like, oh, well, that was cool, I guess, you know, and that was all we had. That was literally all we had for what I want to say 6 to 7 months until the Game Awards. And man, fans went crazy over this. People were trying to speculate, you know, was it a sequel to, I thought it was a sequel to Colors because his boost sort of looked like Laser a little bit, which is really funny. And I know a lot of people tried to speculate it was an adventure remake or sequel because they looked at Sonic's shoe when he slapped the ground. Like, people were going insane, genuinely trying to figure it out. People were trying to figure out what the Zap logo meant. Like, we were all grasping into us, reaching as much as we could to find some sort of answer to the puzzle of what was going on with the future of Sonic the Hedgehog here. But yeah, we weren't left much info about this teaser. The only thing people at the time had done was, you know, leaked the website code and saw that the code for the game was Sonic Rangers, which actually led credibility to that earlier rumor I talked about in January that knew a lot about the game. So for 6 months, nothing. You know, at most we're getting a lot of marketing for Sonic Colors Ultimate. Then we obviously get to the Game Awards where Jeff Keighley promises a Sonic blowout. We ended up having a crazy Game Awards, very iconic for me. I really love that Game Awards, where we got, you know, the trailer for Sonic Movie 2. It was incredible. It was hype. We got our first look at Knuckles, and right after that we are met with a, you know, the first look at Sonic Frontiers. At the time, you know, not titled anything, but officially titled Sonic Frontiers. At the end of that, we got a little bit of CG, you know, that iconic shot now of Sonic, you know, running, looking back at the cliff. We got our first actual look at Kronos Island, which we didn't know at the time. And, you know, we got our details later revealing that it was the Starfall Islands. And yeah, the game at the time kind of looked, you know, just very tech demo-y for a lot of people. I feel like a lot of people were just like, okay, they hired that guy. You know, it looks like a big grassy field. It did end up on a cool CG shot of, you know, our first look at a Titan, you know, stomping down and Sonic looking up at it, which, and, you know, now is such a cool thing to look back on. But again, we really didn't have much. All they told us what it was going to come out in 2022, so we had our year locked in. We kind of all figured that it would be, you know, for the holidays at that point. But yeah, so we had our first teaser then, and honestly after that teaser people were still kind of skeptical, but things were looking much better because we were starting to get details on the project. The biggest thing giving people hope and joy was that Ian Flynn was going to be on the writing for the game, and, you know, they were talking about how they're trying to take the step into a different direction. They want to do this more open zone thing, and they were sort of giving small details about, you know, this ancient technology and what's going on these islands. They kept leaning onto this mysterious aspect of the game, but again, we still, after this teaser, had basically months and months of nothing. So we basically had nothing for the first few months of the year. In fact, Sonic Team was just kind of leaning on marketing of Movie 2, which was more important at the time. You know, Movie 2 was coming out in April, so it felt like all the marketing from late December to March was all focused on the movie, which fairly so. That movie was fucking awesome and a lot of us loved it, but yeah, a lot of the marketing was focused on that, which was actually really smart because by the time the movie had finished its theatrical run and everything, we got IGN pulling through surprisingly in May, being like, hey, Sega has partnered with IGN for an IGN first look at Sonic Frontiers. And this was the moment, you know, this was the big moment for all us fans. All right, this is it. We are gonna see what this game is like. We're gonna see what's cooking, what was Sonic Team working on this month. And then we got the official first gameplay, which this was interesting. I remember at the time I was really excited. I remember looking at it and being like, okay, this looks inherently fun, but this doesn't look polish, right? It didn't look like it was 60 FPS. It almost looked like they were playing the Switch version of the game, or like some really early build of the game. Because for me, what IGN was showing in that first gameplay debut was like, this looks fun. Like, this looks like, holy shit, like I have an open area. This is my dream, like the Sonic CD intro where I can, you know, go ahead and run around the field and see what's cooking, see what's going on in the world. But there was something lacking, right? And I feel like a lot of people felt that there was a lack of polish. It felt like, again, it was very tech demo-y. And once again, a war started brewing within the Sonic community. In fact, there was a hashtag that started to pop up, which was like delay Sonic Frontiers or something, which I didn't really jump on. I was like, hey, let's give it a bit, because something tells me that this demo build is a little older than we know. And in fact, IGN actually started, I feel like the way IGN structured this reveal was a mix of Sega's fault and IGN's fault, where like they were separating, showing the combat system from the first initial trailer of the game, and then talking about stuff like cyberspace and later levels. Like I just feel like the way they like separated the info on the game made the game's, you know, reveals feel like worse or more random. You know what I mean? Because like I feel like it's such a core of Sonic Frontiers loop is, you know, everything is okay. You get into a puzzle on the island, you know, and then you get into a cyberspace level, you get into a boss fight in the world, or you fight some enemies, you know. And I think without showing all that together and showing, you know, such a rough build of the game made things feel segmented. You know what I mean? It didn't do it justice as much as I felt like it deserved. But thankfully, and kind of weirdly, right, we had a little bit after that Summer Games Fest, Jeff Keighley's, you know, new E3 replacement, where he also showed a bit of the game, as well as sort of revealing a demo that they got to play at Summer Games Fest. This demo was a disaster. If you guys know, the demo itself, great, but the way it was sent to the people was weird. We were starving online. I'm talking about fans, you know, speculating and looking at 240p videos, because for some reason direct footage was not allowed at Summer Games Fest. So people were trying their best to look at streams where the game was in the background. They were sending people over to Summer Games just to try to get little details. And honestly, that sort of created this mini hype for the game that the marketing itself for IGN itself wasn't doing. You know, we got our first look at cyberspace levels through, you know, these weird, you know, outside looking videos. We got our first look at in-game cutscenes where people were looking, oh my god, the character model is expressing, you know, and they were starting to get details on it. There was even people like trying to record the audio of it. It was psychotic. It felt like we were psycho people trying to get as much gameplay as possible for this Sonic game. But again, it makes sense. We're Sonic fans. We're a little crazy, and we were craving something at the time. But what was so cool, again, was just seeing the community come together, continue to argue, but also work a little bit together. You know, I remember the first time that we saw the first cyberspace level that we didn't know at the time, and we saw it looked like Green Hill, and people started raising their eyebrow, being like, what's going on here? Do not tell me we're going to the old levels again, right? And then people started finding out that it was like Green Hill, but it was using like the level layout from Windmill Isle. So this also caused the war about like, oh god, are we gonna get original layouts or not? And then I think Sonic Team addressed that in an interview very close after, saying like, yeah, these cyberspace levels are gonna be part of Sonic's memories, and they're just a cool little extra thing, you know, a way to harken back and use, you know, the boost formula in some way that's still remnant in there. But the impressions were good. I feel like that was the most important part. People that got to play it at Summer Games had good thoughts on the game. They were talking about how much they liked it, how much, you know, the Sonic team had done a good job, and it felt like things were going well for us. In fact, I think there was a Nintendo Direct in that summer of 2021 that actually showcased the game, and even though it was the Switch version, the game looked awesome. You know, we were getting an extra look at some of these cyberspace levels. We were getting another look at some of the combat that looked super sick, and just Nintendo did a really good job of showcasing the game in that Nintendo Direct, and that also got fans happy. In fact, it ends with this cool CG shot. You know, Sonic, we see him for the first time with the cyber corruption, and he's looking up and he's seeing Sage chilling with one of the Titans. And not too much time later, in August, we got Gamescom. Now, Gamescom is another big gaming event that Jeff Keighley hosts as well, where he showed a big CG trailer for the game, and that one was a big deal. You know, that was the one where we got, you know, another CG little look in the beginning. We got to look at some cyberspace levels, some cool action. shots. Like, to me, this was like a hype trailer where it was a mix of like showing me the story, what's going on there, with a mix of gameplay, with a mix of the world. And I was like, this was like, oh man, I am so hyped for this game type trailer, you know. And I think they did a really good job with that Gamescom trailer. It got me salivating, it got me speculating, it got me hyped, which was something again that just continued to fuel and fuel as the months went on. And in fact, at Gamescom, just like at Summer Games Fest, fans were doing their best to get every piece of footage possible. You know, some people were recording the audio, some people were hearing how incredible the music sounded, some people were discovering more cyberspace levels. There was even times where people were saying there's some bullshit. I remember this where they were saying like, oh yeah, I did Rooftop Run as one of the cyberspace levels, and people were just confused, like which ones were there, which levels weren't, how were you discovering things. And I remember people were actually trying to break the demo and they were trying to take it home with them. It was a disaster, but it was again a good disaster because people were excited for the game. I remember the line for it at Gamescom was apparently like crazy long, and it felt good to see Sonic excited for again, you know. And we were so close to the finish line. That's when we started getting info and trailers more often. I remember we got a TGS trailer, which was our first look at Super Sonic, and that blew our minds. You know, we just got, you know, some cool shots of the game leading up to Sonic grabbing a cast member. Then we saw Super Sonic drop down for the first time, and it zooms into Giganto, and we felt the hype there, right? And they also revealed Vandalize as one of the themes for the game, and we then blew so many of our minds because I remember that being like, oh my god, like we are back to Sonic AMV era, right? Like they got this big Japanese J-rock group, you know, to make a track for the game, and they were like, oh, this is the end credits theme for the game. And we're like, oh, okay. But it's just like, it was the fact that they were doing shit like this to not only take it seriously but make Sonic cool again, but also make it relevant in Japan again, which I think was something Sonic Team tried to do a lot with the marketing, you know. And then we ended up getting I'm Here dropped on the timeline at some point, which looked really good. And we also got the Knuckles prequel animation that ended up dropping. I adore the Knuckles animation. One, it looks gorgeous, it looks incredible, but it was such a good change of pace, and it was so nice to see like Knuckles in the forefront. It was so nice seeing him exploring Sky Sanctuary and what he does on his day-to-day life. But then, you know, when he gets into the fight with the little robots there, it was such a nice hype thing to do for the game. Like I said, hype was just so high for the game at the time. You know, at the time, you know me, I'd made at that point maybe like 50 videos I felt like about Sonic Frontiers leading up to the launch. We had a CG trailer a little bit before launch, which got people hyped again. Martha Studio cooking again, just again that serious tone, showing me you care. That CG trailer is still one of my favorites. I believe it's the Showdown trailer where you just see some CG bits mixed with gameplay, mixed with CG, and I'm like, those are the trailers that make me happy, man. And then the game officially launches. It is November 7th. Now, I had a week or two beforehand, but I would only play the beginning of it because I don't want to get spoiled too much. But yeah, the game ended up launching, and wow, a Sonic game that launched and people were happy. Like, people were just genuinely excited about a Sonic game. And it wasn't just that, right? It was like people were showing off moments. The game itself, like, you could tell they cared. We had some of the craziest boss battles in the series ever. You know, you had combat in the series for the first time in forever. You know, you had a game with a story that mattered for the first time in what, like 15 years maybe, since Unleashed was the last time story was really relevant, or not like a Saturday morning cartoon. Like, there was something about this game, right? I don't want to get into a full review of it because, like I said, you all heard my thoughts, you know how I feel about it. But it's just, no matter what flaws people had with the game, because it is a flawed game, right? You could tell Sonic Team was trying to do their best to put everything they could. I know we had heard early on that they had even delayed it a year to maximize quality assurance on it, but it was just the game people were happy to talk about. You know, people were happy to share moments on that universally. Even reviewers that normally don't fuck with Sonic were like, hey, this is fun. And the fans, we were just like, holy shit, they care again. A lot of big content creators that weren't even the Sonic sphere playing the game because it just felt exciting and cool to like Sonic again, especially after Sonic Movie 2 was just so successful and so beloved that year. It just felt like we had won. You know, it finally taken a W, and it just felt nice to have a launch of a Sonic game where it felt like, for the most part, no matter what issues people had, people were like, damn, like, we finally got a W after so long with 3D Sonic. But the journey wouldn't end there, right? People still had flaws with the game, and I think Sonic and Sega team knew that, and they also knew they wanted to make the game better. In December of that year, a month after launch we got the announcement of a Sonic Frontiers roadmap, right, where they announced 3 major updates coming to the game the next following year. And the big one that was teased at the end that a lot of people were excited for was, you know, a new story and new challenges and yada yada yada. And I think a lot of people were excited for that and were wondering about that because the original game's ending was, I think, a major disappointment for a lot of fans. I mean, if you guys know about Sonic Frontiers, you obviously know the ending of the game was something that was very weird. You could tell that was kind of the most rushed part of the game, where like the final boss against Supreme, like it's just giganto, but he flies and he's got like an extra move in there. You could tell like the finishers weren't as hype. You could just tell it was weird when the last 3 times before that were like incredible, then you got to that, and then the final boss is just, you know, Ikaruga or a Toho shooter. But you could tell once again, you know, as Sonic fans sort of understand the series a lot, how much Kishimoto wanted to listen to the fans and create something big and different. So a few months passed early in the year. People, I remember, speculating when's the DLC gonna drop. Then finally we get March of 2023, where update 1 of Sonic Frontiers dropped, which I thought was a really good update to the game. So first of all, you know, the jukebox ended up not just being, you know, oh, you get to play music. They actually made a little fun game out of it. You would go on each island collecting music notes, and you would just get different songs from the Sonic series. And not just that, you could just play them anywhere. But I actually really loved this because it was just an excuse, you know, after a while to just run around these islands, and it was fun to see which songs they picked, and it was also fun to see, you know, which situations they would put them. I loved how when you would be on Ares Island, you would collect songs, you know, from Sonic and the Secret Rings, or you'd get some tracks of Sonic 06, or when you were on, you know, Rhea Island, you would get more intense songs. Like you would get even the, I believe, like the E3 orchestrated version of the 06 theme in there, which is really cool. Like there was a lot of cool picks for the music in there, and I was really happy with the song selection. I thought that was a really good update. We also had photo mode in update 1, which I thought was pretty good. You know, I wish the photo mode was a little more extensive, but it works, you know, it's fun. But the major thing that was in this update was a challenge mode, which I think is something a lot of people wanted because there was no way to replay the Titan fight. So the team found a way, you know, they did a challenge mode where it was in 2 separate modes. There was one for cyberspace, where you could go back to the cyberspace levels, you know, play a bunch of those, have a good time with that, try to S-rank them all in a row. But there was also a enemy action challenge where each island had a set of enemy fights you would go through. It was a really good idea, man. It was a fun time, and I think update 1 was really good for the game. I thought it was a good update, and I thought it brought some life to the game a little bit after we needed it. Few months go by until we get to the summer in June, where we get the big birthday update for the game. We finally got the answer to what the hell Sonic's birthday is as an update feature, and honestly, Sonic's birthday was pretty cute. You had these cool decorations. You could change the look of the game to have these clouds that show Sonic. Coco's had little party hats. It was a nice little aesthetic thing. This update was purely gameplay driven, and I really actually enjoy this update a lot because not only did they, you know, add momentum to the game, you could go into the menu, you know, move some sliders, and suddenly, you know, you had the spin dash that you could unlock, which is a massive deal, right? And that was purely from feedback that fans wanted the spin dash back. But like you could go crazy high up with the spin dash. You could even just, you know, lower basically Sonic's gravity, which, so like when you would boost off a rail, you would go flying up way higher. They added ways to make the movement more fun. There was also stuff like action challenges where you'd have to, you know, run around the island and try to get S-ranks by killing enemies, running around really quickly. There was these Coco challenges, which were evil little gremlin motherfuckers. That challenge was very fun. You would go around to different areas on islands, and it's just like, it felt like this update was just like, damn, if you bought this game today, the islands now have so much more to do, you know, from the jukebox collecting to the Coco challenges to the S-rank action challenges. Like, it felt like they added a lot of stuff to do to the game, and I think it was a very good idea, and the update was really important to people. And then the wait began for the final update of the game, you know, and people were so excited for this, right? Getting to play as Tails, Knuckles, Amy again for the first time in, what, 16 years since Sonic 06, basically, and a new story, and it felt like the finale of the game. We were really waiting, and Sega then surprised us at Gamescom once again, where, you know, Jeff Keighley was like, hey, let's show a little bit of Sonic Superstars, which is our next 2D game, but let's drop a bombshell and tease this next big update. And damn, this ended up being such a big deal. I mean, Sonic the Final Horizon, it ended up being called, but we got a tease at a new supersonic form with the blue eyes, and people were like officially hyped. Like, we were already excited, but it was like, oh fuck yeah, this is going to be awesome. And they almost did like a mini marketing cycle for the Final Horizon. You know, they had that, I believe they dropped the songs that were gonna be in it. The launch trailer for it was incredible. There was even like a little story animation they had done for it. It felt like there was so much raw energy and excitement going into the Final Horizon until its big launch on September 28th, where, you know, once again, just like the base game, something that they did very differently this time, which is they just upped the challenge. Now, I've reviewed it, so I don't need to go through it too much again. You can go check out my review on that. But basically, long story short, it was very difficult. You know, it was a weird thing, but it was, again, just you care. Like, you're showing me you give a shit. You have the gang playable again. You have them expressive. You have them talking. You have Sonic with new challenges that, you know, are very platform heavy challenges, and they're challenging the shit out of you, for better or worse. Ending in, I think, what is the ultimate ending to a Sonic game, and one of the most hyped things I've ever experienced in a game was Super Sonic 2 / Cyber Sonic. I mean, this thing made me the happiest motherfucker alive. Like, genuinely, I will never forget doing that fight for the first time. The scream, seeing Sonic anime as hell, you know, basically feeling like, yes, this is how this game should have ended. When the first 3 titans of the game are so high in hype, you get to this one and you finally feel like, holy shit, like, they ended this incredibly well, you know. And having Sage survive, I feel like makes way more sense. The way he defeats the end is so much more raw. It just, they did such an incredible job at ending it, you know, and showing me once again, like, damn, bro, I really can't wait to see what show you guys are doing next. Not because this one wasn't good and I want to see them try something new, but I want to see them expand this, because for me, Sonic Frontiers is such a special game, and I think it's a special game for a lot of us watching this video. You know, I think a lot of people love this game and it means so much to us for a lot of reasons, but it's just like, everything about this game for me felt like the team cared. You know, they wanted to make something that the fans would be happy with, you know, and it never felt like they were trying too many things. It felt like they, you know, they had a budget, they had a time allocated to it, and they made something that they really wanted to, but they know that they're ready to do something crazier with a bigger budget for the next game. And we know they're getting it. You know, Sega's already announced that they're going to be giving, you know, allocating more development time and money into Sonic Team, especially with how successful the game has become, including the movies. Like, I think Sega is realizing that, oh wow, Sonic it needs to be AAA, because if we are making movies that are getting hundreds of millions, and now we are getting games in the 3D games that are selling millions on millions, we need to focus more on it. But it's just like, I'm so thankful for this game, you know, not only like on a more personal note, like, this game means so much to me, obviously. Like, I associate this game with me becoming a big content creator here, you know, and becoming the Sonic hype man. It was the first Sonic game I ever covered extensively start to finish, and I hope I could cover a million more for y'all. This game means a lot. I felt like I was the spokesperson for this game in a lot of ways. So in a lot of ways, I'm always gonna have a special place in my heart for Sonic Frontiers, but I'm also thankful you guys were on the journey, and I know you guys love this game. You know, I've seen all your comments to me, I've seen everything you've ever had to tell me. Like, I know there is so much love for this game, and I would love to know, again, what is your favorite aspect of the marketing for the game? What was the most hyped you were pre-launch for the game, and what's the most hyped thing you feel about the game going out of it, guys? So that's it, everybody. Thank you all for watching my look back at Sonic Frontiers. Here's to a beautiful anniversary for the game. Thank you, Sonic Team, for cooking. Thank you, Sega. Thank you to everybody, to the fans, Kishimoto, everybody involved, and of course, I love you. I will see you all next time. Peace out. I love you.